This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, rel-mar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell, coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to check us out online on all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV. If you'd like to send me an email, X-Zone, wait a sec, hold on here. Email is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV, and our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. And for all the fine broadcasting programming we have available for you on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. My guest this hour, X-Zone Nation, is Iris Weaver. She is a shamanic herbalist and foraging instructor. She is a self-taught herbalist who has been working with plants for over 45 years. Iris teaches classes on foraging for usable, edible, and medicinal plants in the city and countryside, classes on making herbal skincare products, including salves and lotions, and classes in making herbal medicines and how to use them for everyday healthcare and health issues. She also teaches classes on herbal wreath making, neutral dyeing with plants, and container gardening. Her emphasis is and passion is on stability, or sustainability, I should say, use of local plants, and affordability. She grows or wildcrafts many of the herbs she uses in her classes and in her medicines, products for fabric dyeing, and herbal crafts. With a training in shamanism, Iris teaches people how to connect with the energy and the spirits of plants in order to know them and to work with them. Iris loves teaching and especially loves doing plant walks. She also does private consultations, and her website is irisweaver.com. And Iris Weaver, welcome to the X-Zone.
Thank you. Hello.
Iris, what was it? Where did the interest in plants and shamanism come from?
Well, the interest in plants has been there all my life, from when I was a really young kid. I always loved plants, and I would always be talking to people about plants and looking at them and playing with them. And the interest in shamanism came later when I started working with a shamanic practitioner and found that that was a way of relating to spirit and to spirituality that really resonated for me. And because I am so into the plants, it just made sense to me to be connecting with them shamanically, with their energy and their spirit. And a lot of the shamanic training that I've seen focuses more on power animals, which always is puzzling to me because plants are such powerful and ubiquitous beings in parts of the earth. So I definitely work with spirits and with plant power animals, but I love working with the plants, and they have a big part. They play a big part in my work.
So would you say that Would you say that shamanism is divided into two categories, one being the category of plants and the other being the category of spirits?
No, I don't think so. I think shamanism really being about connecting with spirit or with the unseen. I think there's a broad range that's developed over the eons. And while plants are used in various ways, I know there's a number of traditions that use plants, the psychogenic properties of plants to help people connect with spirit. But it's more that the ways that people connect with spirit, with the unseen, with what's beyond the veil, has a broad spectrum, and depending on what tradition you're using, you may focus more on using plant medicines, or you may focus more on connecting with your power animals or with spirit guides. So I don't think there's a division. I think it's more the tradition you're in, and then really the way that the particular shamanic practitioner chooses to work, and who and what they choose to work with, and who chooses to work with that practitioner. Because I know for me, the plants have told me that they had been waiting for me to work with them, and they've made it very clear that whatever I do for work in this life, I must include them.
All right, you and I have to take a break. We'll be right back. Exo Nation, our guest this hour is Iris Weaver, and her website is irisweaver.com. That's irisweaver.com, and we'll be back. Don't go away.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. Exonation, Iris Weaver is our guest, www.irisweaver.com. Now, Iris, before we went to the commercial break, you said that you talked to the plants and the plants talked back to you.
Yeah. It's not like, you go out there and the plant actually starts, talking to you, like somebody would come up to you and they'd see the plant actually moving its mouth or something. There's different ways that plants can talk to us, can communicate with us. And one of the most obvious is that simply their form, their color, their shape, where they grow, and so on, all of them are really telling us about the plant and communications from the plant. And that's where something like the doctrine of signatures comes from, or when people talk about the language of plants. But then there's also connecting with the spirit, the energy of the plant, and the consciousness, the awareness of the plant. and that can be done in different ways, and it's a much more subtle thing, and it's also it can be really surprising, and the way that a plant will communicate with you will depend on how you receive information. So for me, it's not that I necessarily actually hear a voice or something, but I will see pictures, or I will ask a question and I will receive words in my mind that's information that I know is coming from that plant spirit, that it's not just me making this up. So a lot of times it is, I think, and sometimes it's really frustrating because I get given this.
Iris, are you there? Iris, are you there? Iris is no longer with us. Exonation Iris Weaver is our guest, and we're going to try and get back to Iris because I'm really interested to hear what happens with the plants. And Iris, are you back with us?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay, great.
So go ahead and keep telling us about... So would you say that the way the plants communicate you are through telepathic means?
I guess you could say that. I don't tend to think of it that way because I think of telepathy as being between humans, and I don't... When you communicate with spirit, when you communicate with energetic beings, I guess you can call that telepathy, but I've never thought of it in those terms.
Well, if a plant is a living entity, we know that extrasensory perception can go from one person to the next. And since humans have life force or life fields around it, and so do plants, this has been proven by photography. And we know that plants love music. Plants love to be talked to. So I would imagine that this is a form of telepathy of some sort between one species and another.
It makes a lot of sense. It's just not how I had thought of it before, but I like that.
So what was the first plant that you can remember that communicated with you, and what was the first message you received?
Oh gosh, I can't even remember, but I will tell you one of the ones that has stayed strongly with me. That was probably 20 years ago. I love to grow passion flower. It's a wonderful vine, and it has these tentacles. They're not tentacles, like tendrils that wrap around things. And passion flower is known for its nerving qualities, for being calming and so on. But what it told me, this particular plant told me, is that it helps people be able to speak up for themselves and sort of come out of themselves. It said it helps to untangle the strangle, which so looking at the tendrils of the plant, they tend to wrap around things, but then they have the medicine of helping to unwrap or undo that which is held too tightly.
So I guess we can say that the passion flowers were the original wrappers.
Among others, there's a lot of plants that do wrapping.
Where did your love for medicine and plants come from? What happened? Was there something in your life that happened where you couldn't find the cure for something through traditional medicine, that you decided to use your love and your passion for plants to see if you could find something?
Not so much. It really was just that I loved the plants and I loved to see what they could do. And for some reason, I grew up in a sort of a non-traditional society. So my mom had me in the early 1950s, and she breastfed me back when it was very, not the thing to do. And so I just sort of see things outside the box. But I just didn't see any reason to use a lot of traditional medicine if I could use plants. But I do remember at one point I was a single mom, I was on welfare, I was really poor, and I got vaginal infections, and I couldn't afford Vagisil. So I started I found some herbs and came up with something that I could use that would take care of that very uncomfortable condition, which women know about. And I found that it worked really well. It was a lot, less yucky than Vagisil, and I've never gone back to using over-the-counter meds for that sort of thing again. And as I continued, I would use other plant medicines and find that they actually worked better than the pharmaceuticals. And now that I've been doing this for so long, I have an unfortunately really strong understanding of how detrimental pharmaceuticals can be, and I am very determined to find as many ways to use plants in place of pharmaceuticals as I can, as well as using plants in place of other harmful chemicals in our homes, in our body care, and so on.
What other cures have you discovered by your instincts and your love for plants?
Gosh. So when I get a cold, it's not a question of, oh my God, what am I going to do? It's like, which remedy am I going to reach for? Am I going to reach for my cold and flu relief that I developed years ago? Am I going to go for the spruce syrup that I read about and made a few years ago? Am I going to go for fire cider vinegar? That's kind of a big rage these days. Am I going to go for other herbs? Am I just going to make some thyme tea? So my cold and flu relief I came up with years ago. I was visiting friends down in North Carolina, and my friend had a cold, and I went out into the garden and kind of looked around, and I looked at my herbals and I looked at the plants, and I picked up echinacea, anise hyssop, and peppermint and put them together and made a tea for her, and it worked beautifully. And after that I started tincturing it and playing around with sometimes substituting other plants in there. And it works beautifully. And the funny thing is that when I would start getting a cold, I would take some of my cold and flu relief, and I thought, this stuff doesn't work, because I start taking it and I don't have a cold anymore. So, I must not have been getting a cold. And it took me a while to realize, oh, maybe it works so well that when I start taking it, it actually just kind of, gets rid of the cold in the first place.
Wow. Why do you think we're getting that feedback again from your speakers? So could you move the speakers away? Because we're getting it right back in our ears. And X-Zone Nation, if you come on the show, please use headphones, because what happens is, if you're using your computer, the microphone is your computer, the sound is coming out of your computer, and we get an echo loop. So there you go. Okay, it sounds much better. Thank you.
You're welcome.
As much as people dislike Big Pharma, I think that there are still significant uses that Big Pharma has, that doctors prescribe, that plants just can't adhere to.
In some ways, probably. But the more I find out about what plants can do, and what people use them for thousands of years, and what even, say, the eclectic physicians were doing 100 years ago, or other physicians say that discovered cures for cancer. And the more I learn about what Big Pharma does, the less convinced I am that there is much good in Big Pharma.
Well, there's a lot of negative press and a lot of negativity out against Big Pharma, and the biggest culprit for this is the internet. The internet, in my opinion, is the largest septic tank that mankind has ever created, because there's more crap in it than there is anything else. And people believe, for one reason or another, of which I can never understand, that if it's on the internet, it's got to be true.
I know. And I try to use the internet. I don't look at a lot of the toxic stuff, but I have to tell you, it's out of my own experience that I have such a negative view of Big Pharma.
Really?
Yeah, I have. And okay, so I take Prozac, and I've been on Prozac for years and years. But what happened was that a few years ago, I had finally been through a winter where I wasn't depressed. I thought, okay, I can finally get off Prozac. I tried doing it. I did not do my due diligence and do research.
You
But
just can't stop Prozac cold turkey, dear.
I didn't. I took 7 months, and if I done what my psychiatrist said, I would have done it in 2 months. So, and my psychiatrist and my doctor were both surprised at what a negative reaction I had. So, basically, I went off of it, and I had an amazingly bad reaction, and I finally went back up on it. But I have very little respect for an industry that expects you to get on a drug and stay on it for the rest of your life simply because that is how they have designed it. I also think that Prozac drugs like Prozac are using a sledgehammer where a small hammer would do. And if I had known more about herbs and been able to connect more with herbalists and learn more, I might have been able to use them a lot more earlier on. On the other hand, at the time that I started Prozac, gosh, almost 30 years ago, it was what was on offer. And I hate to admit this, but I have to say it probably did save my life. I mean, I did stay alive, and for that, I am grateful.
You know, it's the fact that it saved you, in my opinion, proves its worth and the work of Big Pharma, because without Big Pharma, Prozac and other life-saving drugs would not have been developed.
Oh, but see, I disagree with you. I think that if we had continued to focus on plant medicines, we would have had things that would have been far more effective. So, for instance,
All right, hold on. We've got to take a break here. We'll be back. Exonation, Iris Weaver is our guest. And her website is www.irisweaver.com. And we'll be back on the other side of the news as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. The current edition of the X Chronicles newspaper is now available at www.xchroniclesnewspaper.com.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Iris Weaver is our guest, Exonation. irisweaver.com is her website. And Iris, how can we say with certainty that if we would have maintained the on-track version of using plants for medicine and ignoring Big Pharma, that we would be better off? What is your proof?
Gosh.
That's a heck of a statement to make. So I'd just like to know where you're coming from.
I'm sorry. I'm just trying to come up with an answer.
Sure.
You know, I don't have a lot of proof for you that I can pull out. Just pull out. I know that the reading I've done of.
So what you're saying is that the statement is based on reading that you've done, not on actual experience.
Well, my own experience and watching other people when I give them my plant medicines and they work so well, when I I had somebody come over yesterday, and she had these, like, it's like, I've got these blisters. What is this? I'm like, I think that's poison ivy. And so I gave her one of my plant medicines, and that just to put on, and it worked right away. I've weaned myself off using asthma medication by using plant medicines, and I see other people that have success with using plants rather than pharmaceuticals.
But aren't you afraid of giving someone that they will have a bad allergic reaction to?
Yeah, but and so it behooves me and any herbalist and anyone who works with herbs to really have some clue as to what they're doing and to know something about the plants and the person they're giving it to.
Right. But isn't that what a doctor is for? Somebody who goes to school and spends years studying, is licensed, is governed, and is responsible.
They don't know anything about. They don't learn at all about plants. And again, I don't have statistics in front of me, but the number of adverse reactions and deaths from pharmaceuticals are huge. And just when you hear about one or two reactions to plants, and you hear about how many tens or dozens or hundreds of reactions to a particular medicine, like when you see the ads on TV for a medicine, and the disclaimers are like, I'm amazed that anyone would take that medicine, because there's so many things that could happen to you.
But that's you. That's your personal choice.
That is true. I think a lot of people, it's a tough choice to make, and it's one that I constantly think about. And I think a lot of people have blind faith in big pharma, and when it fails them, then they're kind of left with nothing to fall back on.
But
and
Big Pharma did not fail you. Big Pharma saved your life. You said that yourself, that if it were not for Big Pharma, you wouldn't be here today. Am I right or wrong?
You're right.
So I'm having a problem understanding what the big axe to grind against Big Pharma is.
This is where I go.
Okay.
That if we had concentrated on more natural medicines, I wouldn't have, and there was something other than what Big Pharma had to offer, I would have been able to get through this and stay alive and do so without the disastrous fall when I tried to get off of it.
So, but let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. How do we know that anything else you would have tried would have worked?
We don't. But you see, I also had to go through several different kinds of pharmaceuticals to find out something that would have worked. What if I was one of those people for whom antidepressants don't work? I don't know.
You know, it's like I know a number of medical professionals, and I trust them implicitly. My wife is a medical professional. I trust her implicitly. I go to my pharmacy. I trust him implicitly, because I don't go to somebody's house who is not licensed, who has not gone through university, and has not gone before a board of governors, who is not licensed to practice medicine or dispense medicine of any sort. I feel very safe going to my pharmacist. I feel very safe going to my doctor. Why would I risk going somewhere else to an area that is, for all intents and purposes, illegal?
It's actually not illegal. It is legal.
Isn't it illegal to diagnose and prescribe?
You don't diagnose, you don't prescribe.
So how do you know what to give the person if you don't diagnose?
You look at what's going on with them, and you come up with what you think is going on, and you tell them.
That's a diagnosis. All right. So putting the legalities aside, whether it's legal or not, but why would a person go to a herbalist? How do they find out who a herbalist is?
They may ask a friend, they may look online, they may come to an herb conference or come to an herb festival, they may go to a healing center. And herbalists don't just willy-nilly say, oh, I'm going to, this is what I've seen in the book and this is what I'm going to do. Herbalists study, herbalists learn, herbalists take classes and work with each other, get mentored. There's a lot to learn. And no, it isn't licensed in the United States, nor is it in Canada, I don't believe.
It should be, shouldn't it?
No, I don't agree with that.
When you're dealing with somebody's life and you are making an observation based on their signs and symptoms and saying, well, why don't you try this? Do you just give a topical or do you give herbal remedies that are to be taken internally?
I give herbal remedies that are to be taken internally, and I proceed very cautiously with them. One of the things you do is you start with very small amounts and make sure that the person doesn't have an adverse reaction. One of the things I don't do is work with plants that have that are poisonous, because there are a number of medicines that are poisonous. And you have to remember also that before Big Pharma, and actually even with Big Pharma, a lot of our medicines have come from plants originally.
Definitely. Valium, for example.
No, it did not, actually.
Didn't?
There's valerian, but Valium did not come from valerian. However, digitalis came from foxglove, and aspirin came from meadowsweet, and I forget what else.
Okay, so the way I'm seeing it or hearing it is that a lot of the medicines that Big Pharma is manufacturing and using throughout the medical community has its origins in herbs, right?
Right, and then they took the whole plant. What happens is that when you have a plant, you have a number of constituents in the plant that work as a holistic whole, so that if you have something that, say, would cause heartburn, there may be something else in the plant that will help to relieve the heartburn, and so that there are constituents that balance things out in the plant. But what happened was that Big Pharma has taken one constituent and purified it and synthesized it and uses it as a medicine without all the other constituents that are held in the plant. And that makes it act very differently in the body, or have different effects overall in the body than if you use a whole plant medicine.
All right. So if I understand what you're saying is Big Pharma takes one aspect and leaves all the other aspects behind.
Yes.
And what's wrong with that?
Because the way that all the aspects of the plant work together is a synergy, and it does far more for the body or for the person than the single chemical alone. And those plant chemicals that developed in the plant, they developed in harmony with all of the other constituents in the plant. They did not develop as a single constituent, and humans that have used them developed ways of using them that were whole plant medicines, not just only that one constituent in the plant.
Would you say that there are herbal remedies to cure cancer?
I don't know. Cancer is something that I have a lot of thoughts about, and I don't know if there are herbal cures. I think if I were to get cancer, I would be more trusting of finding an herbalist who's worked with cancer cures, who's worked with people with cancer, than I would with Big Pharma medications. one of the things that I most dread, if God forbid I should have cancer, is the what are those things called? The chemotherapy. I think I'd almost rather die than have chemotherapy because it sounds like it's so torturous, and radiation. I can't imagine that that's what I would have to do to stay alive.
You would rather die than take chemotherapy?
Yeah. In some ways, yeah.
What about you? Well, in some ways, it's either yes, I would, or no, I wouldn't. You know, but what about your family, those who love you? Wouldn't you want to stay around for them? Wouldn't you want to try to be cured?
Not if it meant that I had to go through hell. I've been through hell 3 times in my life, and I think I get to have a choice, God willing, whether or not I have to go through hell a 4th time. And I think that there's other ways to heal from cancer than to go through the hell of chemotherapy. Now, I don't know. I mean, God forbid I should get diagnosed. I might make the choice. So it's really easy to sit here and say,
sure it is,
I would do this.
Yeah.
Given what happened, I don't know. But I can tell you that if I were to, say, choose to do chemotherapy or radiation, I would be working with herbs to support my body while I was doing that.
Okay, let's talk about that when we come back from this final break. Exonation, our guest this hour is Iris Weaver. And if you'd like to find out more about Iris, www.irisweaver.com. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. And we're coming to you around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, Digital Satellite Network, Wi-Fi Broadcast Network, and of course, iHeartRadio. I'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. Iris Weaver is our guest of this hour. www.irisweaver.com. Iris, before we went to the last break, I should say, we were talking, God forbid, you were diagnosed with cancer, and you had the option of taking chemo or radiation. You said that you would support it using herbs or herbal medicine or herbal, what would you call it? Herbal treatment?
Remedies.
Remedy, okay.
Yeah.
What would you use and how would you use it?
Now that I can't tell you because I would be supporting my body depending on what I was using, what the chemotherapy was and so on. And I would need to know what drugs were in my body, what the drug interactions would be, and so on. And I would not just do this on my own. I would definitely be consulting with herbalists that have had experience in this. And I do know that I would also be very aware of what I was eating, what food I would take into my body. Actually, I'm very aware of what food I take into my body now. And I would probably use herbs that are more nutritive and help to support the body, build nutrition, build the body, build its strength, help it withstand stress.
I understand that you take plant walks.
I lead plant walks. Yes.
Tell us about those. They sound very interesting.
They are. They're really cool. I love to show people what you can do with the plants that grow around you, and an amazing number of what other people call weeds are, to me, really wonderful, useful plants. They're food, they're medicine. You can use them for crafts. And so I like to take people, whether it's in the city or in a backyard or in the country, the woods, the fields, and show them what you can do with the different plants. And a lot of plants are useful for both food and medicine. And I don't just look at the food. I don't just look at the medicine. I like to do both. And so that people can find plants that can be very helpful for them, just for everyday uses. I'm not talking about, to cure cancer or anything, but just for everyday aches, headaches, skin problems, colds, flus, things like that. And to me, I just find it amazing how many useful plants there are around us, even in the middle of the city.
Can you give us some examples of some of the plants and what their uses are for?
So one of my favorite plants, and one that people love to hate, is dandelion. And all parts of dandelion are edible and medicinal. You can eat the flower, you can even eat the stem. People will cook it like spaghetti. You can eat the leaves, whether you use them in salads or in soups or in teas. You can eat the roots. I like to chop them up and put them in stir fries. You also, the flowers are used to make dandelion wine, and the flowers are somewhat analgesic. They help to relieve pain. The leaves are full of vitamins and minerals, and they're diuretic. And actually, when you use dandelion leaves as a diuretic, you end up in the plus side of phosphorus, whereas when you take regular diuretics, you phosphorus, potassium, you end up on the minus side of it. The roots are very good for the liver, traditionally been used as a liver tonic, and both the roots and the leaves are a bitter, and that sets off a cascade. When you have that taste in your mouth, it sets off a cascade of processes in the body that both help your liver function better, help your gallbladder function better, help you digest your food better, helps your small intestines. Another plant that grows all over people's lawns, or some people's lawns, is plantain, not tropical banana, but there's people know this plant well. It's got strong ribs on the back of the leaves, and you can eat it. It's not such a great food plant, but it's a fabulous plant for the skin, and it's one that if you are out somewhere and you get like a sting or a bite, as long as you're not allergic, you can take a plantain leaf, you can chew it up, you can slap it on, and it really helps to take away the sting or the bite. It also helps to soothe and heal skin, so I infuse it in oil to use on my skin.
Oh, cool.
And the seeds of plantain can be used the way you would Metamucil. Metamucil actually is made from psyllium seed, which is a tropical species of plantain, but you can go out in the lawn and get your little plantain seeds and use those. And I actually give them to my cat to keep her regular.
Okay, how do you give it to your cat? I've had cats and they're very fussy.
I pulled them off. They're little. There's little small seeds.
Yeah.
So I just take a pinch of seeds and mix it into her wet food,
I got you. Okay.
and that's how I get it into her.
There's a lot of controversy today about the legalization of marijuana. What's your take on it?
I think it's a really amazing medicinal herb. I think it should be legalized.
Have you used it?
Yeah, but it's not one of my herbs of choice.
No. Okay.
It does wonderful things for some people and it doesn't for others, and that is where we really need access to different plants, because as with pharmaceuticals, with herbs, it depends on your biochemistry. One plant that works for you will not work for another person, and vice versa. I'm not one of those people that marijuana necessarily works that well for. And I think it's too bad that it's illegal. I also think that it's a mistake if you're only concentrating on what marijuana can do and not looking at what hundreds of other plants out there can do in addition. And some things maybe marijuana can only do for a person, but other times other plants can do just as well what marijuana does.
What about other plants that are used for psychotropic purposes?
I think that there's a definite place for them. And they're called entheogens, which means helping you to see God or see spirit, to see beyond the veil.
I have the same effect with Jack Daniels, so.
Well, there's a reason actually why alcohol is used in religious services, because it does actually, kind of open that up.
Actually, it's because most Christians are drunks at heart.
Or what?
I said the real reason is that most Christians are drunks at heart. You missed that one. Okay, let's go.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
You said most Christians are what?
Drunk.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Not really. Oh, sorry. But I think that those plants that can take you to other places are very powerful. And I think that if you aren't using them in a way that has respect for their power and some idea of what you're doing, they can really cause you harm.
The only reason I made the Christian reference was because I only started going to church when I heard that they served wine halfway through.
Good God.
That's what I said too. Good God, you're giving us wine. I'll come to your house any day. Thanks for the bread, by the way. Where's the cheese? What? Bread, no cheese? Just red wine. Okay.
I don't know. What would Jesus have had to offer to make it cheese? I don't know.
Well, there were enough goats back then, so who knows?
There you go.
Yeah. No, I agree with you that there's a lot yet to be learned. And as we've seen, as we go forward in time, we look back and say, well, you know what? I remember a time when this was being used, or I read a book where this was being used. I can see the pros and the cons of herbalism. I've also seen the miraculous work that Big Pharma has done. So if we could get the two to work together.
Well, and that's what some herbalists, I go back and forth on this, but that's really what some people say, like it's not either or. It's like, let's get the two working together.
Exactly.
And I have mixed opinions about that. So that's where I'm at. I mean, it can change.
All right, we've got about a minute left. What's next for you? What are your goals? What are your dreams?
I'm starting a communal herb garden where people can come and help to grow the herbs, learn about growing herbs, learn about using them, and have a share of herbs that they can take home and use for food or medicine. And I want this also to be a place where I can teach people about herbs, about weeds, about the food medicine that's all around you with the plants. So I'm really looking forward to doing that.
Iris, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I wish you success. And X-Zone Nation, if you'd like to find out more about Iris, visit her website at www.irisweaver.com. That's www.irisweaver.com. I was just thinking a great website for her would be irisweeder.com, but I guess it's probably taken. We'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news at 6.5 minutes past the top of the hour as we continue here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, and to all the Christians listening, I too am a Christian. And let's face it, guys, we enjoy the free wine and the bread. I think I'm going to start bringing my own cheese. I'll be back. Don't go away.